Diego Mendoza's mansion stood imposingly in the hills of Las Lomas de Chapultepec, but inside, the silence was deafening. The curtains had remained drawn for months, and the hallways that once echoed with childish laughter now held only memories of a past that would never return. Diego, 38, was in his study, surrounded by corporate documents he used as distractions from reality. His eyes, once bright and determined, now reflected deep exhaustion. 8 months had passed since he lost Sofía, his wife, in a car accident that had shattered his world. "Daddy, when is Mommy coming back?" Isabella's voice pulled him from his thoughts. His 6-year-old daughter peeked through the study door, holding her favorite doll in her arms, her big eyes, so much like Sofía's, full of confusion. Diego closed his eyes for a moment. It was the question he feared the most, the one he had avoided answering fully for all these months. "Sweetheart, I already told you. Mommy is in heaven now, watching over us from up there." Isabella walked in slowly, her small face clouded with a confusion that broke Diego's heart. "But I need her here, Daddy. I don't know how to do my hair like she did, and when I have nightmares, no one sings the songs she used to sing." Tears threatened to spill from Diego's eyes. He had become an expert at holding them back, at showing strength while falling apart inside. He crouched down to her level and hugged her tightly. "I know, Princess. Daddy misses her so much too. But we have to be strong, okay? Mommy would want us to be happy." But the truth was, Diego didn't know how to be happy again. His business empire, Grupo Mendoza, one of Mexico's largest corporations, kept running thanks to his team, but he had become a shadow of himself. Meetings dragged on endlessly, he postponed important decisions, and each day became a constant struggle between his responsibilities as a father and a businessman. The house, once full of life, now felt like a mausoleum. The maids worked quietly, tiptoeing so as not to disturb their grieving boss. Dona Carmen, the housekeeper who had been with the family for 15 years, had become a maternal figure for Isabella. But even she noticed the child needed more. "Señor Diego," Carmen had told him the previous week, "little Isabella needs special attention. I do what I can, but you're too busy with work. She needs someone fully dedicated to her, to help with her schoolwork, to play, to understand her." Diego knew Carmen was right. Isabella had begun showing signs of emotional regression, constant nightmares, sudden bouts of crying, and a sadness that wasn't normal for a child her age. The psychologist they consulted was clear. Isabella needed emotional stability and someone who could, at least partially, fill the void left by her mother. That night, after finally getting Isabella to sleep despite her nightmares, Diego poured himself a whiskey and sat in the living room, staring at the family photos still displayed. In each picture, Sofía smiled radiantly, holding baby Isabella, or the three of them together during a vacation in Acapulco. "What would you do in my place, my love?" he whispered into the air, as if Sofía could hear him. "I don't know how to be both father and mother. I don't know how to fill the emptiness you left." His phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. It was Roberto, his best friend and business partner since college. "Diego man, how are you? You haven't answered my calls in days." "Just surviving, Roberto. Barely surviving. Look, I know it's been tough, but you need help. Isabella needs help. Have you thought about hiring a professional nanny? Someone dedicated entirely to her, someone who understands her and can give her the love and attention she needs." Diego had considered the idea before but always dismissed it. The thought of a stranger in his home, the sacred space he had shared with Sofía, felt like a betrayal. But at the same time, he knew his daughter was suffering, and he wasn't being the father she needed. "I don't know, Roberto. I don't know if I'm ready for that." "It's not about whether you're ready, man. It's about what Isabella needs. And right now, she needs someone who's there for her." That night, Diego couldn't sleep. He wandered through the silent house and paused at Isabella's bedroom door. Through the crack, he saw his daughter tossing and turning, murmuring, "Mommy," in her sleep. At that moment, Diego made the hardest decision he had faced since Sofía's death. The next morning, he would call the best nanny agency in the city. Isabella needed help. And for the first time in months, he was ready to admit he couldn't do it alone. The next morning, Diego kept his word. Still wearing the suit he had fallen asleep in on the couch, he called Agencia Luz de Sol, one of the most reputable nanny agencies in Mexico City. He was surprised by how quickly they responded. Within 2 hours, the director herself, Lucia Salcedo, was sitting in his living room, folder in hand and an air of calm professionalism. "I'm very sorry for your loss, Mr. Mendoza," she said gently, after he briefly explained the situation. "I reviewed your case personally. Isabella is a very special little girl and deserves someone equally special. I believe I have just the right candidate." She opened the folder and slid a photo across the table. "Her name is Mariana Rivas. 28 years old. Graduated in early childhood education, experience as a teacher and private nanny for families in Querétaro and Puebla. She has excellent references, and above all, a deep empathy for children who've gone through emotional loss." Diego picked up the photo. In it, a young woman with warm eyes and a gentle smile looked directly into the camera. There was something comforting about her expression, an honesty, a kindness he hadn't seen in a long time. "She looks too young," he muttered, skeptical. "Does she have experience with grieving children?" Lucia nodded. "She lost her mother when she was a teenager. She knows what it's like to live with absence. And that has made her incredibly sensitive with children in similar situations." Diego was silent. Part of him wanted to reject the idea immediately. No one could replace Sofía, and he wasn't sure he wanted a stranger in their private world. But another part, the part that had listened to Isabella cry the night before, told him he had no choice. "Tell her to come tomorrow," he said finally. "Let's try it." The next day, just before noon, the sound of the doorbell echoed through the silent mansion. Diego was in the kitchen trying to convince Isabella to eat something when Carmen entered. "Señor, the young woman has arrived." Diego straightened his shirt and walked to the main entrance. When he opened the door, he was greeted by the woman from the photo, Mariana. She wore a pale blue blouse, jeans, and a simple ponytail. No makeup. No pretense. "Good morning, Mr. Mendoza," she said softly. "Thank you for the opportunity." Her voice was calm, and her presence, unexpectedly disarming. "Come in," he said, stepping aside. Mariana looked around as she entered, taking in the somber atmosphere of the house. It was beautiful, yes, but it felt like time had stopped inside. A house in mourning. Isabella peeked from behind the staircase, holding her doll tightly. "That's Isabella," Diego said, glancing at his daughter. "She's shy with strangers." Mariana smiled gently. "That's okay. I'm not here to rush her. I'll let her set the pace." Instead of approaching the child, Mariana sat on the floor near the stairs and opened her bag. She took out a book with colorful illustrations and began reading aloud, as if simply enjoying the story for herself. At first, Isabella stayed hidden. But little by little, her curiosity grew. After 5 minutes, she stepped out and moved closer. After 10, she was sitting beside Mariana, eyes fixed on the pictures. Diego watched from a distance, stunned. That night, for the first time in weeks, Isabella fell asleep without tears. Mariana had sung a lullaby from her hometown, her voice sweet and soothing. Carmen watched through the half-open door with tears in her eyes. In the days that followed, the house began to change. Mariana didn't try to replace anyone. She never mentioned Sofía unless Isabella brought her up, and when she did, Mariana listened patiently, validating every memory and emotion. She brought warmth into the cold halls, filling the house with quiet joy. She painted with Isabella in the garden, baked cookies with Carmen, and even persuaded Diego to join them for dinner once or twice. And Diego found himself watching her more than he should. It wasn't her beauty, though she was beautiful. It was something else. The peace she carried. The patience. The way she looked at Isabella, as if she truly saw her. As if she cared. It scared him. One night, after putting Isabella to bed, Diego found Mariana in the kitchen washing a few dishes. She wore an apron and was humming softly, her hair falling loosely over one shoulder. "You didn't have to do that," he said. She turned, startled, then smiled. "I like helping. It makes me feel at home." He walked closer, unsure of why his heart was beating so fast. "You've changed this place," he said. Mariana looked at him, unsure what he meant. "This house, my daughter, me," he added quietly. She hesitated, then said, "I didn't come here to change anything. Just to help a little girl feel less alone." Their eyes met. For a moment, neither spoke. Something hung in the air between them, unspoken, delicate. But then Diego stepped back. "Good night, Mariana." She nodded. "Good night, Mr. Mendoza." As he walked away, he realized something had shifted. He wasn't just grateful for her presence anymore. He was afraid of what he might start to feel. Mariana had been at the mansion for a little over 3 weeks. In that time, a subtle but profound transformation had taken root. Isabella laughed more. She ran barefoot through the garden again, chasing butterflies with a joy that had once been lost. Her drawings were no longer all black and gray. Now they had splashes of yellow, pink, and blue. And when she talked about her mother, it was no longer just with tears, but with stories. Memories that Mariana gently encouraged her to keep alive. Diego watched all this from a distance, silently grateful. But that gratitude had begun to shift, slowly, into something else. Something deeper. Something dangerous. He started arriving home earlier, sometimes bringing flowers for the house, or pastries for Isabella. But Mariana knew. She saw it in the way his eyes lingered on her when he thought she wasn't looking. She heard it in the softness of his voice when he said her name. And that terrified her. Because she was feeling it too. Late one night, after everyone had gone to bed, Mariana sat in the library with a cup of chamomile tea. She often came there to read, surrounded by the silence of a house that was slowly beginning to breathe again. She didn't hear him enter. "I can't sleep either," Diego said from the doorway. She turned, surprised. He wasn't wearing a suit, just a simple black t-shirt and jeans. He looked younger, softer, human. "I didn't want to wake anyone," she said, smiling faintly. He walked in and sat across from her. "I like this room." Sofía loved it. She used to say the books made her feel like she was never alone. Mariana nodded. "I understand that." They were quiet for a moment, the air between them charged with something unspeakable. "Mariana," he said suddenly, "I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't come into our lives." She met his gaze. "You don't have to thank me." "I'm not thanking you," he replied. "I'm just being honest." Another pause. "I'm scared," he admitted. "Of what?" "Of starting over. Of caring again. Of what that means for Isabella. For me." She looked down. Her fingers trembled slightly as they gripped the teacup. "I'm scared too," she whispered. And then, silence. But not the uncomfortable kind. The kind that holds 1,000 words in it. He reached out, slowly, and touched her hand. She didn't pull away. Not that night. The next day, things felt different. They didn't speak of what had happened, but it lingered between them, in the way their eyes met across the dining room, in the brief touches that now held unspoken weight. Carmen noticed. She didn't say anything, but the way she smiled at Mariana carried a silent approval. Isabella noticed too, in her own way. One afternoon, while drawing on the floor with her markers, she looked up at Mariana and asked, "Do you like my daddy?" Mariana froze. "Why do you ask that, Isa? "Because you smile when he comes home. And you make him laugh." "He doesn't laugh much." Mariana reached out and tucked a loose strand of hair behind the girl's ear. "I do like your daddy. He's very brave." Isabella nodded thoughtfully. "I think Mommy would have liked you." That sentence pierced Mariana's heart more than she expected. She held the little girl close, blinking back tears. That night, she wrote in her journal, I didn't come here looking for love. I came to help a child heal. But now I'm the one who's afraid to let go. Days passed, then a week. The feelings deepened, but neither of them dared name it aloud. Until one night, everything changed. It was raining hard, one of those rare summer storms that turned the garden into a blur of green and gray. Lightning cracked across the sky as thunder shook the windows. Isabella, afraid of storms, had crawled into Mariana's bed, clinging to her side. Mariana held her tightly, whispering comfort, stroking her hair. That's when Diego entered the room. He paused at the door, seeing the two of them, his daughter curled against Mariana's chest, both illuminated by the soft light of the bedside lamp. Something in him broke. Not with sadness, but with longing. Quietly, he walked over and sat on the edge of the bed. She used to come to us too, during storms, he murmured. Sofía would hum to her until she fell asleep. I know, Mariana whispered. She told me. Their eyes met. Diego reached out and touched Isabella's small hand, then gently brushed his fingers against Mariana's wrist. You don't have to stay forever, he said. But if you want to, I want you to know there's room here. For you. In her life. And in mine. Mariana didn't respond right away. Tears welled in her eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming beauty of the moment. I'm already here, Diego, she whispered. I just didn't know if I was allowed to stay. And with that, he leaned forward and kissed her, tender, hesitant, full of questions. But she answered with a kiss of her own. Certain. Soft. Real. The morning after the kiss was quiet. Not awkward, but tender. Like the world had taken a deep breath and was still holding it. Mariana woke early, careful not to disturb Isabella, who was still sleeping peacefully beside her. She tiptoed down the hallway, her heart still fluttering from the night before. Every touch, every word Diego had whispered to her, echoed in her chest like music. She wasn't sure what would happen next, but for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid of the answer. Downstairs, she found Carmen in the kitchen, humming as she prepared breakfast. Carmen looked up with a knowing smile. You look different. Mariana blushed. It was a long night. Storms tend to shake more than the windows, Carmen said gently. Sometimes they open hearts too. Mariana laughed softly, grateful for the older woman's warmth. She poured herself a coffee, wondering if Diego would join them for breakfast. Wondering what they were now, what this feeling meant. But before any of that could be answered, the past came knocking. Literally. There was a loud knock at the front door, sharp and unexpected. Carmen frowned. Who would come this early? Mariana moved to the foyer and opened the door, and froze. Standing there was a woman in her mid-30s. Impeccably dressed in designer clothes, heels sinking slightly into the gravel. Her makeup was flawless, her smile practiced. But her eyes were cold. Good morning, she said brightly. I'm Victoria, Sofia's sister. The words hit Mariana like a slap. Diego appeared moments later, his face hardening the instant he saw Victoria. What are you doing here? He asked, voice flat. I'm here to see my niece, she replied sweetly. Surely you don't want to keep family away, do you? You haven't called. Not once. Not since the funeral. I was grieving, Diego. We all grieve differently. She glanced pointedly at Mariana, who stood nearby, tense. Some faster than others, apparently. That's enough, Diego said sharply. But Mariana had already stepped back, excusing herself. She didn't want to hear more. Didn't want to be a reason for tension in a family still bleeding. Upstairs, Isabella had woken to the sound of voices. When Mariana returned to the room, the little girl looked at her, eyes wide. Who's yelling? No one, sweetie. Just some grown-up talk. Was it my aunt? She asked softly. Mariana blinked. You remember her? Isabella nodded slowly. She smells like flowers I don't like. Mariana laughed in spite of herself. That's very specific. She didn't come when Mommy died. Why is she here now? The question hung in the air like a weight. Mariana knelt and hugged her tightly. I don't know, Isa. But whatever happens, I'll be right here with you. Always. Downstairs, Diego and Victoria sat in the formal living room. She crossed her legs, perfectly composed. You've changed the staff. Yes. And the locks. She smiled thinly. Still charming. I don't want trouble, Victoria. Then don't make this difficult, she said. I came because I want to be part of Isabella's life. Diego narrowed his eyes. Why now? Because she's my blood. Because Sofía would have wanted that. Don't you dare talk about what Sofía would have wanted. Victoria didn't flinch. I also came to see how she's doing. And imagine my surprise when I find a new nanny living here. One who seems very close to you. Diego stood. This conversation is over. She rose too. Think carefully, Diego. Courts don't always favor fathers. Especially ones who make questionable decisions. His jaw tightened. You want to take her from me? I want what's best for her. You have no idea what's best for anyone but yourself. Then prove it, she said, stepping closer. Prove that your little perfect life with your perfect nanny isn't just a fantasy you're forcing on that child. He didn't answer. Because he knew, deep down, that his heart had become entangled. That the line between need and love was already gone. That night, Mariana stood by the window in her room, staring at the moonlit garden below. Diego entered quietly, his face weary. She's staying in a hotel, he said. But she's not going away. Mariana nodded, not turning to look at him. She thinks you're a threat, he added. To her control. I am, Mariana whispered. Not because of anything I've done. But because I care. He stepped closer. I care too. She could take her, couldn't she? She asked. Isabella. He didn't answer right away. Then, she could try. Tears welled in Mariana's eyes. I couldn't bear to lose her, Diego. I didn't come here to love her. Or you. But I do. And now I don't know how to protect any of it. He wrapped his arms around her. You're not alone. Not anymore. And she broke. In his arms, she let the fear pour out. The doubt. The pain of being an outsider. The ache of loving something she had no legal right to claim. I don't want to run, she whispered. Then don't, he said. Stay. Fight with me. That night, while the storm of uncertainty brewed outside, inside the mansion a vow was made. Not in words. But in the quiet embrace of two people willing to risk everything for the family they never expected to build together. Days passed, and the once peaceful mansion turned into a place of quiet tension. Victoria's presence loomed like a shadow. Though she stayed at a nearby hotel, she visited almost daily, always bringing gifts, always with a smile too polished to be sincere. She insisted on spending time alone with Isabella, and though Diego allowed it under supervision, it became clear she was planting seeds. Do you like this doll, Isa? It's from Paris, Victoria said sweetly one afternoon. Isabella shrugged. Mariana makes better clothes for my dolls. Victoria's lips twitched. Oh. She sews. She fixes everything. It was meant as a child's innocent truth, but to Victoria, it felt like a battle lost. Later that day, Diego found Mariana sitting alone in the garden, trying to sew a ripped dress of one of Isa's dolls. She's trying to win her over, Mariana said quietly without looking up. She won't succeed. But what if she does? She set down the doll, defeated. What if all of this falls apart and I was just temporary? Diego crouched beside her. You were never temporary. Not to me. Not to Isabella. But the law won't care how many bedtime stories I read, or how many tears I wiped. Then we fight. I'll fight for her. And for you. Mariana finally looked at him. You'd go to court? If I have to, yes. She thinks money and blood give her power. But love, what we have here, is worth more than that. The court date arrived sooner than expected. Victoria filed a petition for partial custody, citing emotional negligence on Diego's part and claiming Isabella needed a maternal figure with her bloodline. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Mariana didn't speak during the hearing. She wasn't allowed to. But she sat behind Diego, her hands clenched tightly in her lap, as the lawyers went back and forth like it was a game. She's a child, not a chess piece, Diego said at one point, his voice cracking. And she's already lost enough. The judge listened in silence, impassive. Victoria's lawyer emphasized her family connection, her stable income, her desire to restore feminine presence in Isabella's life. It stung. When the hearing ended, the judge said he would need a few days to decide. Back at the mansion, everything felt frozen. Mariana found Isabella curled up in her bed, hugging Sofía the doll tightly. Are you leaving? The little girl asked suddenly. Mariana's heart nearly shattered. Do you want me to? No, a pause. But people leave. Mariana lay beside her. I'm not going anywhere unless someone drags me out. Isabella turned to her, small hands reaching for hers. I want you to be my mommy. The words came so naturally, so simply, that Mariana forgot how to breathe for a moment. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I want that too, mi cielo. More than anything. The next morning, a miracle arrived. Not in the form of a ruling, but in a voice message. It was from Sophia's old nurse, Rosa, who had moved abroad after the funeral. She had seen the court notice online and wanted to testify. She always told me, Sofía, Rosa said in the audio. She didn't trust Victoria. Said she only came around when there was money involved. The message was admissible. Diego's lawyer moved quickly. At the final hearing, Rosa's testimony painted a different picture, of a sister who envied Sofía, who ignored her while she was sick, and who had never once visited the child she now claimed to love. When the judge delivered his verdict, his words were clear. Primary custody remains with Mr. Herrera. Visitation may be negotiated, but this court recognizes that the emotional stability provided by the current environment is in the child's best interest. Victoria didn't even look at Mariana as she left the courtroom. But Isabella ran into her nanny's arms with such force it nearly knocked Mariana over. Are we going home now? She asked. Yes, sweetheart, Mariana whispered, holding her tightly. We're going home. That night, the three of them sat on the back terrace under the stars, Isabella asleep in Diego's arms, her little face finally at peace. Mariana watched them, her heart full. You did it, she whispered. We did it, Diego corrected. He reached for her hand. I don't want to keep pretending this is temporary. I want you here. For good. She smiled. You know that means we'll argue about bedtime routines and which cartoons are allowed. He laughed. I'll take it all. If it comes with you. Then yes, she said softly. I'll stay. And in that quiet night, without rings or formalities, they became a family. One built not by blood, but by choice, by love, and by everything they were willing to fight for. Week 4, Wednesday night. The rain tapped gently against the windows of Diego's study as he reviewed some contracts. It was past midnight, but sleep eluded him. His thoughts kept drifting to Camila, the way she had comforted Isabella that morning, her melodious laugh during dinner, the warmth of her hand when they had accidentally brushed against each other in the kitchen. A sound in the hallway caught his attention. Peeking out, he saw Camila exiting Isabella's room, carrying a glass of water. Nightmare? He asked softly. Camila nodded, surprised to find him awake. Just a small episode. She's asleep again. They stood there in the dim hallway, acutely aware they were alone. Diego noticed she wore simple cotton pajamas, her feet bare, her hair tied in a loose ponytail. He had never seen her look so domestic. so much a part of his home. Thank you, he murmured, for everything you do for her. For us. It's my job, Camila replied, though her voice trembled slightly. Is that all it is? The air between them grew charged. Diego stepped closer, and Camila didn't back away. Their eyes met in the semi-darkness, and for a moment, the world shrank to the space between them. Diego, she whispered, her voice a mix of warning and longing. The sound of his name on her lips nearly unraveled him. His hand lifted involuntarily, brushing her cheek. Camila closed her eyes at the touch, and he felt her melt beneath it. But then, the portrait of Sofía on the hallway wall seemed to remind him of her presence, and Diego withdrew his hand as if burned. Sorry, he murmured, stepping back. I shouldn't. This isn't right. Camila opened her eyes, and Diego saw the pain mixed with understanding in them. You're right, she agreed, hugging herself. We should keep things professional. But even as they said the right words, they both knew it was already too late. The line had been crossed, even if only for a moment. Thursday morning. Breakfast was tense. Isabella, unaware of the undercurrent between the adults, chatted cheerfully about her upcoming school presentation. Daddy, Camila's helping me with my butterfly project. Will you come watch me present? Diego, who had avoided eye contact with Camila all morning, finally looked at her. She had dark circles under her eyes. She hadn't slept well either. Of course I'll be there, he promised, forcing a smile. And Camila too, Isabella exclaimed. We'll be like a complete family. The silence that followed was deafening. Diego felt as though he'd been punched in the gut, and he saw Camila pale. Sweetheart, Camila said gently, I'm your caregiver. You and your daddy are the family. But you take care of us like we're your family too, Isabella insisted, with the brutal honesty only children have. Mom is in heaven, but you're here with us. Diego abruptly rose from the table. I have to get to work. Camila spent the rest of the day avoiding being alone with Diego. When he returned that night, she had already eaten with Isabella and gone to her room early. But that night, both lay awake on opposite sides of walls that suddenly felt too thin, struggling with feelings they didn't know how to manage. The following days passed under a cloud of tension. Diego started coming home later, inventing important meetings to avoid intimate moments at the end of the day. Camila threw herself obsessively into caring for Isabella, planning activities that didn't require Diego's involvement. Isabella, however, wasn't blind to the changes. She began asking heartbreaking questions. Camila, is Daddy mad at me? Of course not, love. Why do you ask that? Because he doesn't eat breakfast with us anymore, and he looks sad again when he comes home at night. Camila felt a stab of guilt. Her feelings for Diego were affecting the family dynamic they had worked so hard to rebuild. Friday night. Diego arrived home around 11, hoping everyone was already asleep. But as he passed the living room, he saw Camila sitting on the couch, a cup of tea in her hands. Can't sleep? He asked, stopping despite his intentions to avoid her. Isabella asked about you at dinner. She wanted to know if she did something wrong to make you not want to eat with her anymore. Camila's words hit him like a slap. Diego dropped into the armchair across from her. My God. I'm messing everything up again. You're not ruining anything, Diego. You're just confused. It was the first time she had called him by his name since the night in the hallway, and they both noticed. Confused? He echoed, with a bitter laugh. My wife's been dead for 8 months, and I feel. He trailed off, unable to finish. It's okay to feel, Diego. Sofía wouldn't want you to freeze your heart forever. How can you know what Sofía would want? He asked, harsher than he intended. Camila didn't flinch. Because she was a mother. And a mother always wants her family to be happy, even after she's gone. Diego buried his face in his hands. I feel like I'm betraying her. Like I'm trying to replace her. No one can replace Sofía, Camila said softly. But no one else can fill the space you're opening in your heart for someone new. They're different places. What if Isabella thinks I'm forgetting her mother? Isabella sees her dad smiling again, showing up in her life, being present. Do you think that hurts her? Diego looked up and met Camila's compassionate gaze. In that moment, he knew she felt the same, and that she too was wrestling with guilt. And you? He asked quietly. Don't you feel like you're crossing professional lines? Camila looked away. Every day. But I also know what I feel for Isabella is real, and what She stopped. What you feel for me? Diego finished. She nodded without looking at him. I came here to help a little girl heal. I didn't come to fall in love with her father. The confession hung in the air between them. Diego got up and walked to the window. You know what my first thought was when I saw you and Isabella making cookies in the kitchen? Camila shook her head. I thought, this is what my family would look like if Sofía were still alive. And I felt so guilty for thinking that, I almost fired you that night. Why didn't you? Because Isabella was the happiest I'd seen her in months. And because, for the first time since the accident, I felt alive too. He turned to her, and Camila saw tears in his eyes. I don't know how to handle this, Camila. I don't know how to love someone new without feeling like I'm betraying my wife. Maybe it's not about loving someone new, she replied, standing up. Maybe it's about letting yourself still be capable of love. They moved closer, until only inches separated them. If we do this, Diego murmured, everything changes. Everything already has, Camila said. The question is whether we'll run from it or face it together. For a moment, it seemed they would kiss. But then Diego stepped back. I need time. We need time. Camila nodded, though the disappointment was clear in her eyes. For Isabella, she said. Everything we do has to be for her. For Isabella, Diego agreed. But they both knew it wasn't just about Isabella anymore. It was about two hearts finding the chance to heal, struggling against guilt and fear to love again. 2 weeks later, Saturday afternoon. The peaceful routine of the Mendoza household was disrupted by the unexpected visit of Elena Mendoza, Diego's older sister. Elena had been in Europe for work and had just returned, eager to finally meet the famous Nanny who, according to the few phone conversations she'd had with her brother, had worked miracles with Isabella. Elena was everything Camila had imagined Diego's family to be: elegant, sophisticated, with a gaze that assessed everything and everyone with surgical precision. She arrived at the mansion in her convertible Mercedes, impeccably dressed, carrying expensive gifts for Isabella. Aunt Elena, Isabella shouted, running toward her with open arms. My beautiful princess, Elena replied, hugging her niece. How you've grown. Now, tell me, where is this Camila I've heard so much about? Diego clenched his jaw at the comment. He hadn't spoken that much about Camila, but Elena had a way of making everything sound more significant than it was. Camila appeared from the kitchen, drying her hands on her apron. When she saw Elena, she instinctively straightened her posture, recognizing someone from Diego's social class. Ma'am, nice to meet you. I'm Camila Ruiz. Elena extended her hand, but the handshake was cold and calculating. Her eyes scanned Camila from head to toe, noting her modest clothes, her youth, her natural beauty. Elena Mendoza. I've heard wonderful things about your work with Isabella. Isabella is an extraordinary child. It's been a pleasure working with her. During dinner, Elena dominated the conversation, sharing anecdotes from her travels and asking seemingly innocent questions that carried hidden barbs. So, tell me, Camila, where are you from? Your accent sounds familiar. I'm from Xochimilco, ma'am. Oh, how interesting. Very quaint. And your family? Are they also in childcare? Diego noticed Camila's discomfort and stepped in. Elena, Camila is a psychologist specializing in childhood trauma. She's not your average nanny. Of course, of course. I'm just curious. She looks so young. How old are you, dear? 25, Camila replied, keeping her composure. Elena smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. How wonderful to be so young and already so professional. And tell me, do you have a boyfriend? A girl as pretty as you must not be single. The silence was tense. Isabella, oblivious to the tension, interrupted happily. Camila doesn't have a boyfriend because she's too busy taking care of me. Right, Camila. That's right, princess, Camila replied with a forced smile. After dinner. Once Isabella was asleep, Elena wasted no time revealing her true intentions. She found Diego in his study. Diego, we need to talk. About what? That girl. Do you realize what's going on? Diego felt a flash of irritation. What do you think is going on? Please don't insult me by pretending. It's obvious how you look at her, how she looks at you. And more importantly, it's obvious how Isabella sees the two of you together. Isabella is better than ever. Camila has done an extraordinary job. I don't doubt her professional work. That's not what concerns me. I'm worried you're confusing gratitude with something else. Diego stood up, annoyed. Who are you to judge what I feel or don't feel? I'm your sister. And I'm the only one brave enough to tell you that it hasn't even been 9 months since Sofía died. Hearing his wife's name from Elena's lips felt like a slap. Don't you dare use Sofía to justify your prejudices. These aren't prejudices. It's common sense. That girl is domestic staff, Diego. She's from Xochimilco, from a humble background. Do you really think she understands your world? Your status? The responsibilities that come with being a Mendoza? Camila is worth more than all of high society combined. Camila. Elena raised her eyebrows. You're on a first-name basis already? Diego, wake up. She's in a financially vulnerable position. You're a widower, wealthy, and clearly lonely. Doesn't it occur to you she might have seen an opportunity? Diego's fury was palpable. Get out of my house. Excuse me. I said get out. Now. I'm your family, Diego. I'm just worried about you and Isabella. If you really cared about Isabella, you'd see how happy she is. For the first time in months, my daughter is healing. And yes, part of that healing is thanks to Camila. Elena moved toward the door but turned back before leaving. Sofía was my sister-in-law and I loved her like a sister. But she was also my friend. And I can guarantee she would be devastated if she knew you were replacing her with the help. The door slammed shut, leaving Diego alone with his thoughts and a renewed guilt Elena had skillfully rekindled. Later that night, Camila had overheard part of the argument from the hallway. Not intentionally, but the voices had been loud. She was in her room, packing her suitcase, when Diego knocked on the door. May I come in? She opened the door, and Diego immediately saw the open suitcase on the bed. What is this? I think Elena is right, Camila said, avoiding his gaze. Things have gotten too complicated. Isabella is doing much better. Maybe it's time you find someone more appropriate. More appropriate. Someone from your social class. Someone who doesn't complicate things emotionally. Diego closed the door behind him and approached her. Look at me, he said softly. When she finally did, he saw tears in her eyes. You can't leave, he said. I have to. For Isabella, for you, for me. What if I told you I don't want you to go? That Isabella doesn't want you to go. She's a child. She can't make that decision. And what about me? Can I? Camila stayed silent, and Diego stepped closer. Elena doesn't know what she's talking about. She doesn't know your heart, your kindness, all you've done for my daughter. For me. But she's right about one thing, Camila whispered. I come from a different world. I don't know if I belong here. Don't belong to this world, Diego said, cupping her face in his hands. "Belong to us." And this time, when they leaned in, there were no portraits of Sofía or Elena's voices to stop them. Their lips met in a kiss that was soft at first, tentative, full of months of restrained emotion. But then it deepened, becoming a promise, a silent confession of love. When they pulled apart, they both knew there was no turning back. They had crossed the line for good, and now, they would face the consequences together. 1 week later. News that Diego Mendoza was romantically involved with the nanny spread through Mexico City's elite social circles like wildfire. Elena had apparently been very effective in sharing her concerns with select friends, who in turn shared them with others. The first signs were subtle: glances at the golf club, conversations that abruptly stopped when Diego walked into a room, social invitations that mysteriously never arrived. But it was Roberto, his business partner and best friend, who finally delivered the bad news on a Tuesday morning at the office. "Diego, man, we have a problem." "What kind of problem?" Roberto shut the office door and sat across from Diego's desk. "The kind of problem that affects business. I've gotten 3 calls since yesterday. Important clients asking questions about your personal situation." Diego felt the blood drain from his face. "What kind of questions?" "The kind they shouldn't be asking, but they are. Don Fernando Aguirre cancelled next week's meeting. Said he preferred to wait until things clear up before signing the Santa Fe condominium contract." "And the others?" "Same thing. High society in Mexico can be very conservative when it comes to situations like yours." Diego stood and walked to the window, staring at the Polanco traffic without really seeing it. "Situations like mine? You mean finding happiness after 8 months of grieving?" "I mean that some people think it's too soon, and that the class difference is problematic." "To hell with them. Diego, listen. I'm not saying I agree with them. Camila is extraordinary. But you have to consider the practical implications. Mendoza Group depends on those social connections for some of our biggest contracts." At home, later that day, Camila immediately noticed Diego's mood when he got home. He wore the expression she'd come to recognize, the one that meant the weight of the world was on his shoulders. "What happened?" she asked when they met in the kitchen, after Isabella had gone to play in the garden. Diego told her about the conversation with Roberto, about the clients pulling away, about the rumors spreading. "You know what the worst part is?" Diego said at the end. "That I don't even care what they think of me. I care what this means for you. And for Isabella." Camila felt a knot form in her stomach. "What do you mean?" "Isabella's going to start hearing things at school. The children of those families will repeat what they hear at home. And you'll have to face the stares, the comments, the judgments." "I can handle stares and comments." "You shouldn't have to. It's not fair." Camila stepped closer and took his hands in hers. "Diego, look at me. We knew this wouldn't be easy. We knew there'd be consequences. But I didn't know they'd be so immediate, and so vicious." Just then, Isabella came running into the kitchen, tears in her eyes. "Daddy! Camila!" Sofía said horrible things. Diego and Camila exchanged alarmed glances. Sofía was the daughter of one of Elena's friends, and she had come over to play that afternoon. "What kind of things, sweetie?" Camila asked, kneeling to Isabella's level. "She said you want to be my new mommy but you can't because you're not part of our family. And she said my mommy in heaven is mad because daddy doesn't love her anymore." Diego felt like a knife had been driven into his chest. He walked straight to the garden, where little Sofía was playing calmly, as if she hadn't just said something cruel. "Sofía, I think it's time to take you home." The girl looked up at him with the premature coldness sometimes found in children raised in homes where too much adult talk fills the air. "My mommy says Isabella needs to know the truth about what's happening." That night, after putting Isabella to bed and having a difficult conversation with her about how some people say hurtful things when they don't understand, Diego and Camila sat together on the terrace. "I can't let Isabella suffer because of this," Diego said. Isabella is suffering more from seeing her father so distressed than from what other kids say. How can you be so calm? Camila sighed. Because I grew up facing prejudice. Because I know those people's opinions don't define who I am or what I'm worth. And because I know the only opinions that truly matter are yours, and Isabella's. What if mine isn't enough? What if this damages your professional reputation? What if no one wants to hire you after this? Are you asking me to leave? The question hung in the air like an unexploded bomb. No, Diego finally replied. I'm asking if you're willing to stay, knowing what that means. Camila stood and walked to the terrace railing, gazing out over the city lights. Can I tell you something about the day I decided to specialize in childhood trauma? Diego nodded. I was 20, doing volunteer work in a hospital. I met a 7-year-old boy who had lost his parents in an accident. No one wanted to work with him because he was so aggressive. He'd scream, break things. Everyone said he was a lost cause. She turned to look at him. I spent 6 months working with him. 6 months of crying, sleepless nights, questioning whether I could really help him. But in the end, when I saw him smile for the first time, when he hugged me and said, "Thank you for not giving up on me," I knew I'd found my purpose. What are you saying? That I don't give up easily, Diego. Especially not on the people I love. Her words were a declaration of love as clear as any he'd ever heard. I love you, Diego said, without hesitation. I love you and the way you love Isabella. I love you, and I don't care what Elena or Don Fernando Aguirre or all of high society thinks. I love you too, Camila replied. And I love Isabella as if she were my own daughter. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. That if this becomes too hard for Isabella, if the comments at school hurt her too much, we'll reconsider everything. I promise. But I also promise that we're going to fight for this. For us. They kissed beneath the stars of Mexico City, knowing the storm was just beginning, but also knowing they would face it together. 3 months later. The crisis had reached its peak 2 weeks after that late-night conversation. Grupo Mendoza had lost 2 important contracts. Isabella came home crying for 3 days straight because of cruel comments from her classmates, and Camila received a letter from Elite Childcare Agency informing her they would no longer work with her due to concerns about her professionalism. That was when Diego made the decision that changed everything. One Tuesday morning, he arrived home early and found Camila consoling Isabella, who was having an emotional breakdown after a classmate told her that her dad was going to forget her real mom. It's over, Diego announced. We're leaving. Both Camila and Isabella looked at him in surprise. Where are we going? Isabella asked, wiping away tears. Where both of you can be happy without anyone hurting you with cruel words. During the following weeks, Diego quietly organized a transition that no one saw coming. He moved the main operations of Grupo Mendoza to Guadalajara, where they had a regional office that could expand. He sold the mansion in Las Lomas and bought a beautiful but more modest house in an upper-middle-class residential area in Guadalajara. Are you sure about this? Roberto asked when Diego explained the plan. You're changing your whole life. I'm not changing my life, Diego replied. I'm saving it. The new beginning. The house in Guadalajara was different. Smaller, warmer, with a garden where Isabella could play without constant supervision from security guards. The neighborhood was a mix of professionals, mid-level businesspeople, and young families who didn't seem particularly interested in anyone's social background. Isabella adapted quickly to her new school. She made friends who came over to play and treated Camila as naturally as children treat maternal figures they consider safe. Is Camila your mom? One of her new friends asked during an afternoon of play. Camila is Camila, Isabella replied with the simple wisdom of children. She's very special to me and to my dad. And your real mom? My real mom is in heaven watching over me. And Camila is here taking care of me too. I'm very lucky. That night, when Isabella told them about the conversation, Diego and Camila realized that the girl had found her own way of understanding her family situation. 6 months later, a Sunday afternoon. Diego came home after playing soccer in the park with Isabella to find Camila in the garden, reading while waiting for the cake she had put in the oven to be ready. The scene was so perfectly domestic, so beautifully normal, that he stopped to watch. Camila had grown her hair out and now wore it in a loose braid. She had new freckles on her arms from all the afternoons spent in the garden with Isabella. She looked relaxed, happy, as if she truly belonged in that place. "What are you thinking?" she asked, noticing his gaze. "I'm thinking I never imagined happiness could be so simple." Camila closed her book and smiled. Simple. A house, a garden, a woman I love, a daughter who laughs again. No security guards, no mandatory social events, no worrying about what others think. "Don't you miss anything from your old life?" Diego considered seriously. "I miss Sofía. I will always miss her. But I don't miss the world we lived in. I realized that world never really let me live." Isabella appeared running from the house, her cheeks rosy from exercise. "Camila. Dad. It smells delicious. Is the cake ready?" "10 more minutes, my love. Can I help decorate it?" "Of course. It's your specialty." While Isabella ran back to the house to prepare the decorating materials, Diego approached Camila and took her hand. "There's something I've been wanting to ask you." "What is it? Will you marry me?" Camila almost dropped her book. "What? I know it's soon. I know we've been through a lot. But I also know I want to wake up every morning for the rest of my life with you. I want Isabella to officially have the family she already feels she has. I want when people ask who you are, I can proudly say, she's my wife." Camila had tears in her eyes. "Diego. And before you say you can't replace Sofía, let me clear something up. I'm not looking for a replacement for Sofía. I'm looking for a partner for the rest of my life. Sofía was my first love, the mother of my daughter, and she will always have a place in my heart. But you are my second chapter. My new chance at happiness. And if Isabella isn't ready?" At that moment, as if she had been listening, Isabella appeared at the garden door. "Ready for what?" Diego and Camila exchanged looks. "Isabella, come here, princess. Dad wants to ask you something important." Isabella approached with curiosity. "How would you feel if I asked Camila to marry me? If Camila officially became part of our family?" Isabella looked at them both seriously, with that concentrated expression she made when processing something important. "Does that mean Camila would be like my stepmom?" "Yes, something like that." "But she'd still be Camila?" "Of course. She'd still be exactly the same Camila you know and love." "And Mom in heaven would still be my real mom?" "Always, my love. No one can ever change that." Isabella nodded solemnly. "Then yes. I want Camila to officially be part of our family." But what, princess? Can I be the one to carry the rings at the wedding?" Diego and Camila burst out laughing, and at that moment, Camila knew her answer was yes. "Yes!" she shouted, hugging Diego. "Yes, yes, yes!" And as the three of them embraced in their Guadalajara garden, with the smell of vanilla cake floating from the kitchen and the sun setting over the city, Diego knew he had made all the right decisions. They had found their happy ending, not in high society ballrooms, but in the simplicity of genuine love, in a family built from pain toward hope, from loss toward a new beginning.